Hi, and welcome back to me in my living room. I got married since last time I saw you. We got married in Iceland at the beginning of September, and it was awesome. We have been talking and planning this trip for a long time. Honestly, like since 6 months into dating, we've been talking about eloping, and backpacking and camping is like one of our favorite things to do together. And so this was a really exciting trip that we were looking forward to for a long time. It was both of our first time traveling overseas, which was really big and scary and exciting. As somebody who's not especially traditional, the wedding planning aspect of it was kind of overwhelming. It was really weird for me to kind of like put myself in the position of like being a bride. The whole process of planning was like a lot of us trying to figure out like what do we actually care about doing that's traditional versus like how much of this is just kind of silly to us. Photography was a big part of that though. We went back and forth a lot in the planning about if we wanted to hire a photographer to be there or not, especially because we were eloping and we weren't going to have family there. I was like, I know everybody's gonna be upset if they can't see nice pictures from the day or have something to like feel like they got to see what we did and what that was like. There's a few reasons that I wasn't super excited about hiring a photographer or like focusing a lot on the photography of the day. There's a lot of pressure, even more so than maybe there has been in the past, to like have your wedding pictures be this like perfect representation of like who you are and like what your relationship is like. I work adjacent to the wedding industry, so I feel like I see a lot of wedding content. Part of it is probably New York, but I think also the contemporary like bridal aesthetic is very almost clean girl, very Eurocentric and polished, and like a lot of things that I've just never really fit in with very well. And so like I feel like trying to like put myself in like that role, especially like in the photo shoot like element of it, would like make me feel really out of place and like not myself. Like I feel like I think a lot more about what I look like than what I'm feeling in that moment when that's the case. And like I just, don't want to have that feeling during such an important moment. But also in addition to that, it's also just very expensive, especially because we were getting married overseas. Pricing was just like a lot, and it wasn't that we didn't like have room in the budget for it if we wanted to. It's just that like everybody was like around $3,000 to $5,000 on average. There's just a lot of other things I would rather spend money on than that, especially as someone who doesn't particularly like enjoy having my photo taken. Yeah, for a lot of reasons, basically all of those reasons, it just didn't really feel like hiring a photographer was going to be the right choice for us. And so I ended up taking them myself. And that's my justification for why I did that. And I'm really happy with the choice that I made, and I'm happy with how the photos turned out. But I've definitely had a lot of people curious about how and why. And so this is just a video to talk about that. Because I like talking about my photography and I like showing people my wedding pictures. So this is a video where I get to do both of those things. So first off, I will say the very like objective, basic component of this, which is the equipment that I used. Since I told myself that I was saving money by not hiring a photographer, I justified buying myself some new equipment. I have my Canon 80D, which is what I'm filming on right now. That's the body that I have always used. I got this as like a graduation present from high school, and I've been using it for like 8 years now, and it's fine. I think they say you're supposed to upgrade your camera body like every 5 years, but it's been good for me for a long time. I did buy pretty much everything else new for this though. I upgraded my lenses for the first time in a long time. The lenses that I had also I'd had since high school. So these ones were new, and I did a lot of research to pick them out. And I ended up getting ones that actually weren't that expensive. And the main one that I used, I actually don't have on the camera right now, so I'll get that out. I bought 2 new lenses. I got one for vlogging, which is this one. And then I got one for portraits. This one is 50mm lens, but the main reason that I wanted to get it was because it has a really wide aperture. It goes down to f1.8, which you can tell like even just by looking at it. So I'll show you that. Yeah, this one I saw people recommending for like kind of traditional, like wedding photography, portraiture, stuff like that, because you get a really nice like focus on the subject and like the blurry background. So I use that for pretty much everything. It is like a bit tight. Like I said, it's 50 millimeters, so you have to be kind of far away depending on what you're shooting. But I really like it, and I think it was only like $200, which is like really great for a lens, especially one that I feel is like way better quality than the one that I was using before. I'm filming on it right now, so I can't show you. But I bought myself a new tripod. The one that I had before was so lightweight, and the handle had broken off of it, and it was like covered in paint splatters from when I was like filming myself painting years ago, and it just wasn't in good shape. So I bought like a real nice one. It has like a rotating axis at the top, and so you can like shoot vertically much easier. I bought rain covers because Iceland is very rainy, and so I had covers to put over all of my equipment, which was also ended up being very necessary. And then the last like technical thing that I used was the Canon remote shooting app, which I've used for years for like a lot of my self-portraiture work. And I will talk more about the app in a minute here. But that is like the setup that I was working with for shooting. Planning is like a big part of any shoot for me because I like to try to feel efficient. I'm a huge Pinterest girl, and so I spent a lot of time on Pinterest trying to figure out like what kind of images that I wanted, and I put together a whole shot list and like reference images to go through so that I knew like what shots I wanted to get for sure during the day, which was very helpful. I'll take some time to show some of the references that I saved, but I was really drawn to kind of like a messy romantic look, like something a little bit cinematic and like capturing the feeling of the day as opposed to like super polished glamour shots from the day. Like we were in such a beautiful place, and I wanted it to be more about like the happy feeling and the beautiful landscape. I did want to like capture details and be like, oh, this was my necklace and these were our flowers and things like that, but I didn't want to be like focused on making things look perfect, especially when it comes to like my face and things like that. I feel like there's a big culture around weddings where I think women are supposed to feel like they're the most beautiful that they've ever been in their whole lives on their wedding day, and I just didn't even want that thought anywhere in my head, and I didn't want to feel like if I post these pictures I have to look the hottest that I've ever looked in any picture I've ever posted. So I really didn't take a lot of pictures that focused on what I looked like, because that's just not fun for me, and the day was supposed to be fun for me, so I kept it really light, and we mostly just like set up the camera and had fun. I'll show a couple side-by-sides of like, this was the reference, this is what I did. And yeah, I think like getting to have that control and like knowing what I wanted out of the day made it a lot easier. Okay, so for the Canon remote shooting app, which was kind of like the most absolutely necessary part of this, I have a good amount of experience using this from before. I've done self-portraits with it. I even did some of our engagement pictures using this app. It allows you to see basically what the viewfinder is seeing, and you can adjust the focus and like a few basic adjustments, and then you can press shutter. It's very helpful, although it is very finicky. It also requires both the phone and the camera to be connected to the same Wi-Fi source, so that is something to keep in mind. We were in the middle of nowhere. We did have like our Airbnb was close by where we were shooting. Trevor ended up having to take the Wi-Fi router and like basically move it to like way to the opposite end of the house as where it had been, so that I could connect my camera and my phone to it. And even then, like it kept like disconnecting, and it definitely slowed us down. But you know, for all of its problems, I couldn't have shot without it. I definitely recommend like trying to use it in like an easier location before like doing something high stakes like that. Basically, I'm just using the app to make sure that it's focused on me, and then take shutter, and then like while you're taking the picture, try to hide it in some way or another. So if I was shooting a picture like this, it'd be really easy because I can hold it just out of frame. But we did a few full bodies where Trevor just had it in his pocket and he was just holding down the shutter. And I used high-speed continuous shutter for a lot of these, so that way it takes like a million pictures, and then you can go through and look at them later, which adds a lot of time to the editing process, but I feel like it's the best way to do it when you can't see what you're shooting. Yeah, I didn't do anything too complicated. For most of these, like I said, I got this lens because of its low f-stop, so I did leave the f-stop really low, the aperture really wide. For most of these pictures, there were some that I did with a slower shutter speed, around like 1/16 of a second, just to get a little bit of motion blur. One of my favorite pictures of the day actually was one that I shot that way. It was like a cool way to get the feeling again without focusing on details. I did a few where we had the view in focus and not us, so for that one I turned off the autofocus and I would set the camera to focus on the landscape, and then we would just go out in front of it. And then one of my other favorite pictures from the day is one that I took that way. That's pretty much it as far as technique. Most of what I did, I think, is just like the basics of taking a good photo, so I won't go too much into all of that. But those are like the creative things that I felt like I did that got cool results. I felt like our pictures had a really dreamy, romantic look, and like that really reflects how the day felt, and I'm glad that I saved all that money and saved all that stress, and that we got to spend the day with it just being the two of us. And it feels really meaningful to like have heard nice things from people about it, because not only is it, you know, a happy memory, but it's also some art that I made about me and my love. So it was nice to get to spend some time doing something that I really enjoy, which is photography and taking some pictures of Trevor and of nature. I think it's a much better memory than it would have been otherwise. So I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, you know. It's just something I like actually really enjoy doing, and I felt like I had the capacity to be able to do so, and yeah, it turned out well. But like I said, I've gotten a lot of questions about it, and so I just wanted to take a minute to talk about it. So I hope that either you learned something if you're like just interested in like the photography and like self-portraiture angle of it, or if not, if you're just here because you keep up with my life, that was entertaining and that you enjoyed this behind the scenes of my wedding pictures. I started a blog page on my site to like just update on what I'm doing creatively, and I think I'm going to try to start a newsletter based off of that as well. So if you want to sign up to get like written updates about what I'm doing in my life, kind of probably parallel or similar to what I'm posting on here, feel free to do that. I'll link it below. And thank you as always for caring about the stuff that I make, and I'll see you next time. Bye.